The do now from today reviewed identifying the probes that we've used. Make sure you know that this is the carbon dioxide probe. It's the one that we'll be working with on Thursday when we run some experiments. Remember that everything we do in class will be helping you develop life skills if you follow through. Take a minute to review the skills that this week's activities will be building. Again, everything we do is leading you towards 21st century skills. Today, I gave out a hard copy of some ideas that you can use towards making goals for your personal learning plan. You can also find this digitally in Google Classroom under this topic. The first thing that we did today was graph data from the data that we collected when we went outside the other day, and we compared carbon dioxide levels outside and inside the classroom. So the first thing you need to do is go into the collaborative document in Google Classroom and open up this individual document. I'll show you how to do that. In Google Classroom, this is the collaborative document that I'm talking about, and this 7th of December graphing CO2 levels is the individual graphing topic that you will use. These are the results from Block 4 data collection. Inside the classroom, these are their data points for carbon dioxide levels. In the parking lot, here they are, and in the wooded area, here they are. In science, we want to collect as many data points as possible, and then we calculate the average, which I've done here in the bottom row, and we graph the average. So you need to copy these numbers into your individual document here. This is the block 4 data that I've copied over, so make sure you have numbers here from your block. If you were in block 1, we didn't have time to go outside and collect that data, so you can use either block 2, 3, or 4 data. You begin graphing your data by highlighting these 6 cells that you want to graph, and then you insert a chart. All right, and you see that the chart I get only has 2 bars, so I want to show you how to get that 3rd bar in. I'll show you how to edit this graph totally. It's also missing the labels. Okay, to get your 3 bars here, you go into Setup. First of all, we want to get rid of the number here that says 1260. So you see that in the x-axis, we don't want that classroom number there, so you're going to remove that label. And then here in the series number where it says parking lot and wooded area, we want to add the classroom one here. And then you see where the classroom is, that now it shows up here on the bar graph. So now I'm going to show you how to add the labels to this graph. So go to Customize here and Chart and Axis Titles. Chart title is the first one that we can edit. So let's put in the chart title of carbon dioxide levels inside and outside the school. So I've typed that in here, and you see that it appears in the title. The next one that I'm going to change is I'm going to scroll down and do the vertical axis, which is this axis over here, the y-axis, and this represents the carbon dioxide levels in parts per million. So I'm going to type that in here now. As soon as I type it in, it appears on the graph. Now I am going to change the horizontal axis, which is simply the location. Different locations at the school. So I'm going to write that in now. And now you see I've typed it in and it appears on the graph. So this graph is now ready to submit. So you can complete this graph and turn it in on Google Classroom. The next thing we talked about in class was what a claim, evidence, and reasoning statement is. And it is simply a strategy for you to think critically and independently. You can make a claim and then support it with evidence and reasoning. And this is a life skill that helps you also in other areas of life. For example, if you want to convince your parents that they should allow you to go out on Friday night with your friends, your claim is, I should go out on Friday night with my friends, and here is the evidence that I have to support that claim. 1, look at my grades in Google Classroom, 89 and higher. 2, I have no missing work. 3, I did all these chores at home. 4, I babysat for my cousin last week. All these pieces of evidence demonstrate that I'm responsible and I should be able to go out with my friends this weekend. So your ability to put a solid claim, evidence, and reasoning statement together will help you throughout life. Getting a job, getting a pay raise, convincing your parents to let you do something. All right, so this is a life skill. The first thing we did was to watch a video clip to create a claim evidence reasoning statement to answer the question, what happened to the cat? All right, so watch the video to look for evidence that tells you what happened to the cat.
Honey, have you seen our cat? Nope.
In class, I had a paper copy of the claim evidence reasoning statement, and that's what we filled out in class. So just make sure you understand what I'm telling you now. So based on the video, what do you think? What would your claim be? What happened to the cat? The dog killed the cat. And this is the checklist on the bottom and the back of the CERs that you should always follow. You'll notice that the claim does answer the question. The claim lacks an explanation or reasoning. It answers only one question, and it is more than a yes or no answer, and the claim is a complete sentence. Okay, so this claim would get you full points. The claim is worth 10 points. Moving on to the evidence. What pieces of evidence in the film, in a little video clip, showed that the dog killed the cat? Pieces of evidence include the missing cat poster and the wife asking about the cat. These are both pieces of evidence that suggest the cat is actually missing. We see the dog burying the collar, and then we see the dog bribing the man with the Doritos because the man saw the dog burying the collar. And in the note, it says you didn't see nothing, so he's trying to silence the man. And finally, the dog bribes the man again with a second bag of Doritos. So these are all pieces of evidence that will give you full points for the evidence part of the CER, which is also worth 10 points. You'll see that each piece of evidence is relevant to the claim. There is enough evidence listed to support the claim. The evidence does not have an explanation or reasoning, and each piece of evidence is either strictly an observation or a piece of data from the lab. In this case, it's all observation from the video clip. And finally, the evidence is listed, that is listed is specific. It's not vague. The final stage of a reasoning CER is the reasoning statement. This is where you bring it all together and you identify and describe how the evidence supports the claim. This is a sample reasoning statement. In class, I had several students read their reasoning statements aloud, and they all had slightly different versions of this. So this is just an example. One example reasoning statement would be this. The missing cat poster and the wife asking about the cat are pieces of evidence that the cat is actually missing. The dog was burying the cat collar, which suggests the dog also buried the cat remains. The man saw the dog burying the cat collar, and the dog bribed the man with the Doritos for the man to stay silent. The note told the man that in exchange for the Doritos, he must not say he saw the dog burying the cat. Then, when the wife asks about the cat, the dog presents the man with a second bribe of Doritos. All of this put together shows that the dog was actually guilty of killing the cat. All right, this is just an example. Notice that there is justification for how each piece of evidence supports the claim. The reasoning is not simply repeating the evidence. There is a link between the evidence and the claim. The science principles are explained. For example, the dog was burying the cat collar, which suggests that the dog also buried the cat remains. Like you kind of extend out the meaning based on your own knowledge. The reasoning explains why the claim makes sense. And the reasoning is written in complete sentences. So your reasoning statement will be a full paragraph, and that is why this part of the CER is worth 30 points, and each of the other components are only worth 10, because this is where you put it all together and you really show me that you understand how the evidence supports the claim. The final step of today's activities was to answer the question with a CER. In terms of CO2 levels, is it healthier to be inside or outside of the building? And this is directly from this assignment in Google Classroom. So you will open it up and you will find this template, and I will walk you through that as well. The first thing you need to do is just copy the question straight from the assignment in terms of CO2 levels. Is it healthier to be inside or outside the building? Right now, we don't actually have enough evidence to determine the answer to that. We know that the CO2 levels are higher in the classroom than outside, so we need to know whether CO2 levels impact human health. So let's do a quick Google search. You just need to write in here, how does CO2 affect human health? And then you look for a reliable source, like here's the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. You click on that website and you can read about the effects of CO2 on health. And you'll see here it talks about 400 parts per million being the outdoor level, 400 to 1,000 being the typical level when in an occupied space. And from 1,000 parts per million on, you start to see a negative impact on health. So I want to keep my source, so I'm going to copy Control C, the web link there of the URL, and we'll use that in our CER. Back in the CER, I have written another piece of evidence that this article tells me that CO2 levels above 1,000 parts per million have a harmful effect or harmful to health. I highlight the article here, and with a Control K and a Control V, I can paste in the link to the article. So it's now hyperlinked. I now have two pieces of evidence here. Higher level is in the classroom, and I know that CO2 levels are harmful if they're above 1,000. So our claim is now, in terms of CO2 levels, it is healthier to be outside. Make sure you understand that. Then in class, I left everyone with the responsibility to finish the reasoning statement. And once your reasoning statement is done, submit it on Google Classroom. Happy writing!